Hey y'all. Mm, mm, mm. Today I is for Isaac, Genesis chapter 21. He is one of the three patriarchs of the Israelites, and sometimes I just wanted to shake him, because he was frustrating sometimes, because he was he was a very peaceful man, and sometimes you wanted to say, hey, just take the 38 special out and deal with this and stop offering everybody peace. But he listened to God. So here's the story. Abraham is Isaac's dad. Isaac is Jacob's dad. Jacob had the 12 tribes of Israel, so Isaac is the grandfather of the 12 tribes of Israel. He was the only patriarch whose name never changed. If you remember, Abram changed to Abraham, Jacob changed to Israel, Isaac stayed Isaac. Now, when Abraham was the first one to move into the promised land, and that's when God made a covenant with him and said, your descendants will be as numerous as the stars. Go live in the land I'm going to show you. And Abraham went. So Abraham did not live his whole life in the promised land. However, Isaac did. Isaac never left the promised land. And then it's Jacob, Isaac's son, who actually leaves to go into Egypt. So just think about this for a minute now. So when Abraham went into the promised land, he was a foreigner in a strange land. So he lived in tents. He brought his whole family. He needed water. Now the settlements sprouted up along the rivers, or people drilled their own well. I mean, Abraham couldn't call the local municipal department and say, hook me up to water. He had to drill wells. So Abraham was a well driller. So when Isaac inherited everything Abraham had and he would move, he'd have to build wells. And the locals were very jealous of Isaac because he was so blessed, and he was, this man would plant a seed and 100 plants would sprout up. That's how blessed God made Isaac. So the locals would steal his water. They'd take over his wells. They'd say, these are our wells. We're taking them. We've been here longer than you. And Isaac would just move on. He knew God was with him because God had reconfirmed the covenant that he had given to his dad with Isaac. So he knew God was with him, and he knew God did not want him to leave that country. And so he had to make peace, and he did it very well. Anyway, eventually the king approached Isaac and said, look, I see that you're blessed, but you've got a lot of numbers here. But if you promise you won't mess with us, I won't let my people mess with you anyway, either. So let's make a treaty, and we'll leave you alone. You leave us alone. And that's what happened. So then Isaac didn't have to travel and build wells, dig up a well anymore. So he got settled in pretty well. Anyway, what do we get from Isaac? He was submissive to God. If you recall, he was the little boy that his dad went to sacrifice on the mountain to God. He was a precursor to what would happen at Jesus' crucifixion. He was the promised son to Abraham. Jesus was our promised son. Isaac carried his own wood on his shoulders. Jesus carried his own wood for his crucifixion. And he came out of the promise. He was in the promised land the whole time, and Jesus is our promised land. So he was a foreshadowing of Jesus and the crucifixion. So what do we get out of Isaac? Live a peaceful life if you can. Don't pull out that 38 special I wanted him to pull out and just take care of that situation. Pray to God and live a peaceful life, and be submissive. And you know what? We want to be submissive to God. And we want to do what Paul tells us to do in Romans. and that is to be a living sacrifice to God, to show that we understand that we have nothing without God. It's all God's. So pray over your kids, pray over your family, pray over your finances, your money, your house, and let God handle it, and ask for guidance on major decisions. He will not disappoint you. So I is for Isaac, Genesis 21. Have a wonderful, wonderful day and blessings to you. Hey, y'all. Hey, y'all. He is one of the three patriarchs listed as the, hey, y'all. And I feel like I'm going all over the place here, but I am. It wasn't just Abraham moving, it was his whole entourage, bartenders and then all the animals. So, peacefulness, acquiesce to what God is telling you. I'm trying to use a big word every week.